Everybody, you're listening to God Spice with Greg and Kirti.
My name is Kirti.
I'm the Gregory.
And welcome to a new episode of God Spice.
Spice.
So today we're actually going to not touch into anything that Greg just muttered, but we actually want to talk about this idea around...
You want to be touchy-feely?
That's later, Greg.
Oh,
okay.
I thought that started underneath the camera, actually.
Some people are touchy-feely when it comes to words and language and relationships.
Well,
So
words
that's
can
not-
be touchy.
Yeah.
People can feel touched by words, emotions, and relationships.
They can. And what we're going to cover today, something that's kind of near and dear to us, which is how you kind of approach relationships.
How do you approach relationships?
And is there like a strategy to relationship management? And we're not just talking about lovers and personal relationships, but this
Lots of therapy.
Yeah, well, there's that. That might be one of the tips that we come up with. But I think it also what can we borrow from our personal life and apply it to friendships as well as
Or
work
what can we
relationships,
just borrow from movies?
industry relationships.
Yeah.
Which movies? Because I feel like every
What's
movie.
the new Blake something movie that we watched, and now she's like suing him for
This Is
improper.
Us?
Yeah, This Is Us.
Oh my
Should we
God,
take
that's
advice
like
from
a
that
whole
movie?
other drama. That's a whole other
It's
drama.
like an on-screen and off-screen drama.
No, but
who knows what's going on?
Maybe there was a lot of communication breakage there.
Maybe communication breakage. Maybe he was method acting.
Yeah, but you don't really need to method act when you're not playing the Joker.
Well, no, a lot of actors method
Let
act.
me method
I just
act.
watched a video the other day.
Really, that's not method acting.
Wait, what are you talking? What's not method acting?
The affectionate stuff that he was overdoing.
Well, well, you never know. Who knows what do they call those consultants now? They have those
intimacy
consultants.
consultants.
Yeah.
And apparently,
the golden age of movies has gone.
I mean, no, but they've always existed. And the thing is, if you are pretending to create intimacy moments that are not in the script, I would think that there's something awkward about that. And doing it without the intimacy coordinator there.
Well, talking about method acting, what's his name? Jack Nicholson. I was just watching a video the other day of a behind the scenes of The Shining. The scene right before he basically breaks down the door with an axe, and he's wielding an axe around the room with the cast all around him. He could have easily accidentally slipped out of his hand, slipped into someone's head, arm.
Well, they
could have been maimed.
That's not intimacy coordinator. That is stunt coordinator.
Well, you never know. Some people do find that as intimacy, and they pay for it too.
To each his own. I mean, look what happened to Alec Baldwin.
What happened to Alec Baldwin?
Remember with the whole his shooting thing,
Rush.
and then he almost went to jail for it.
He didn't go to jail for it.
He almost did. He was going to be convicted.
I don't even think I don't think they even went to trial.
Yes,
technically,
they did.
I thought there was enough evidence that they didn't need to go to trial.
Do not even know the pop news.
Well, the other coordinator ended up going to jail.
The stunt coordinator.
The stunt coordinator.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or the arms coordinator. I forget what the name is.
Whatever.
for those.
Shooting coordinator.
Yeah, they. So I'll tell you, when I've been on sets before, it's interesting when you have a coordinator that comes out with a knife or a sharp object. It's literally it's one of these scenarios. Everybody, and then they look at around, make sure there's no one in any vicinity. Then they break out the knife that's being used. It's really crazy, how I've seen certain protections in that before.
There is. It's got to be careful. But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I talked about this idea of relationships. How do you bucket relationships in your mind or in your life experience?
Ooh, that's a great question. Is she hot or not? It's very easy. Okay. Is she hot? If she's hot,
that is about
the instinct to want to do something is there. And if she's not, then she can either be out of your life or platonic. And then if she's platonic, she might be out of your life anyway.
that is a part that
It's compartmentalization.
Okay, so then what bucket would that type of relationship go into?
A proper one, a healthy one, someone who knows what they want.
Relationships are more than having an intimate partner, Greg.
It's not about just being intimate. You got to be happy with the way they look.
What? What are you talking about? Are we even talking about the same thing?
If you wake up next to someone in bed, when you look at them first thing in the morning, the last thing you want is something that looks like a furry creature that walks on all fours. Okay.
Okay. All right. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what you're talking about anymore. I wanted to cover off on kind of three key areas.
Okay.
And if
What are those
there's
key areas?
any overlapping strategies that
Yeah.
you have identified organically, I'm not saying being weird and actually
being
develop
weird. It's
strategies. No,
organic.
I'm not telling you that you are weird. We're not
Weird,
talking about that.
but I am organic.
I don't even know what again, what do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do I mean? You're the one that's going off on these tangents.
Have you eaten today?
Of course I have. I had
Okay.
some pretzels
Anyhow,
and a yogurt.
talk to me a little bit about how you approach the management of a family relationship. Because I have interesting observations of you and your
Well, it depends on the
management.
family dynamic, right? It depends on who in the family. Is it like the kids? Is it like my daughter, your daughter, you,
I'm not
my
talking
elder
about-
sister, my younger sister, my aunt? Like there's a different dynamic for each one of
Let's talk
them.
about immediate family minus the kids, because
Okay.
kids are a whole other episode.
So immediate family minus the kids. So like siblings,
Yeah.
parents,
Yes.
and us.
Yes.
Okay. Well, my parents are dead. Boom. They're like out of the relationship pool. So that leaves only a few.
Okay. Oh my God. If your parents were alive, when they were alive, what was that like? What was your approach to communicating? What was your approach to spending time with them? Like, what were some of the things that you consciously or subconsciously would do?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have to go back my mother's been dead for years, as you know. She died in 2004. So that'll be 21 years this year.
Oh my God, 21 years.
Yes,
That's so
it's
sad.
quite a long time.
I don't know what I would do without my mom, honestly. I
It's-
don't know how you've thrived as an adult without your mom.
Well, you just get used to it. And I was young
How
when
do you
she
get
died.
used to it? I could never get used to it.
You don't get over it.
If
You
I
get
don't
used
talk
to
to
it.
my mom for like 4 days because I'm so busy with work, it just like I start to get like really like feeling guilty. Like, oh my God, I haven't talked to my mom, even just to say hi, even though there's nothing to really update her on.
Yeah. Well, I'm what they call I'm like a ghost whisperer.
Oh,
Yeah. So I communicate with the dead on a regular basis. It's just very easy. It's like, oh, she said to say hello.
I mean, so then your predominant, I'll call it middle-aged years were with your dad.
Yeah, I was with my dad, but I will say, so when I was younger, I used to like to hang out with my parents at times. Why not? They used to come see my shows and things like that. They came to all my hockey games, and so we had a relationship like that. At home, just typical. You know, my dad was never one to really watch movies. Like TV for him was this old house and like the Nature Channel, and that's all he ever liked to watch. My mom loved scary movies, so that's probably why I do.
You love
scary
scary movies.
And then also, there was a period of my life ever since my mom fell ill when I was 15. And so between the age of 15 and 29, she was ill. And it actually got to the point where when she did die, it was almost a relief because we thought she was going to die many times.
Talk to me about that a little bit
Yeah.
because you were a teenager, young teenager when she started falling ill, right?
Yeah, 15.
Because it was like young. It's like our kids' age. What was that like from a relationship management standpoint for you? You know, like how did you manage the guilt of, I want to be there for my sick mom, but like, I also kind of need to play hockey or play baseball or see my friends and have a social life. Like,
Yeah.
or how was that relationship between you and your mom?
I mean, my mother and I, my whole family was close. And so there was no guilt, mostly probably because, I was young and 15, you're still living at home and like playing hockey, and they're, coming to your games and playing music. They would come to see shows. And then when I moved out of the house, I mean, I still saw her because unfortunately she would go into the hospital and out of the hospital. It was like kind of on a regular basis. Or when I'd go up to visit, I'd make sure I'd go up there to visit on a regular basis anyway. And then we'd end up having to take her to the hospital like 5 a.m. in the morning. So I became accustomed to my time being spent with my mother, enjoying the small moments that we had, knowing that there were going to be these other more traumatic moments, like the amount of times that we've had conversations with the doctor of we might need to pull the plug.
Oh,
I can't even name the amount of times.
it's just so devastating to go through that.
It's devastating. And then, and then my mom would just come out of it, and then she'd be like back to normal and
So
go
she
back
was
home.
like a scary movie.
She was like a scary movie. There were several times that she,
I don't mean to be
she would have
lighthearted.
died that
I'm
she
just
didn't.
sort of being funny about this.
my
Like
sister,
it's like, woo, I'm
yeah.
back.
Well, my middle sister was basically like my mom's living proxy. She was the one who had the right to actually to make the final decision to pull the plug. We all would make the decision, but she's like the one that would actually sign. So one day we're in the hospital. My mom's in the hospital bed. She's all like wired up, and my middle sister one time accidentally tripped over the power cable. And so like something unplugged. All of a sudden, everything starts going woo 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 woo. Like the medics all rush in.
Did this?
Yeah, the medics all rush in. We look at Kristen and we're like, I guess you really were supposed to pull the plug.
Oh my God. That's horrible.
Yeah. Or though, even when my mom, actually the day she died, she was in a home because we couldn't take care of her at home anymore, and she needed full-time care. And she literally died in front of us. Like stopped breathing, body changed colors. And then it was my aunt who said to her, like, Carol, just let go. Like, and then my mother, like, literally just turned a different color. Then all of a sudden, she started gaining natural living color back again 30 seconds later, and she pops right out of it.
All right.
So she goes from being dead to being alive. And then unfortunately, within the hour, she died.
I'm sorry.
But it was...
But this
no
is
one,
sort of a little bit of a circus death.
Oh yeah, no one was telling my mother, like an Italian woman, no one was going to tell her anything whatsoever, especially when it was her time to go.
So now, okay, that was like, I did not expect so much back and forth about this tragic moment.
Yes.
But it sounds like you had a very loving, close relationship with your mom.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because you were younger, you were pretty much in vicinity of her and proximity of her.
On a regular basis.
On a regular
Yep.
basis. So now like fast forward to like, you know, you were married to someone else, you had a child, and you still had your dad, like living in another
Yeah, we used to visit
city.
my dad on a regular
So
basis.
like how did
Yeah.
you manage that relationship?
So-
Now minus mom around.
Yep. So my dad used to call on a regular basis. I used to call him on a regular basis, and then we used to go
What's
to
a regular
Connecticut.
basis? Define a regular basis for me.
Well, I'm gonna back it up. The one thing I feel a little bit guilty about with my mother is that when I was
Knew there
younger,
was gonna be some guilt.
but it's the only guilty piece, and just it's because of the phone that made me think about it. Is when I was working in the city. My mother, and this was I'd still be when I first started working in the
for
city.
this story to
I was
come
still
out.
living at home, and I was commuting. And so I would make my way into the city. It would be like 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm at my desk, and my mother would call literally just about every day, like Monday through Friday. Oh, what do you want for dinner? I'm like, Mom, I can't talk now. I'm at work. And it's like she wanted to chat, but I'm trying to work. And so I couldn't chat. So I feel guilty that I did not give her maybe the time that she wanted on the phone every day. But if anyone who goes to a normal 9-to-5 job knows that you can't be on the phone with your mother for an hour and a half in the morning during the day.
Okay, well, hour and a half sounds like a bit much.
That's a bit much.
5 minutes.
I might be exaggerating how long she
You
wanted to be on the phone,
are
but
actually introducing one of my first tips on relationship management, which is identify your kind of mode of communication, but manage expectations with the other person. So like, it's great that your mom wanted to talk to you every day for an hour and a half, but instead of ignoring her calls and then getting yelled at when you got home,
I didn't ignore them. I would pick them up. I'm like, Mom, I can't talk right now.
so you yelled at her.
No,
He yelled at his mom.
I was not yelling, nor was I reprimanding.
You could also
I was conveying.
manage your mom's expectations.
Yeah, but what am I supposed to? Oh, mommy dearest, I'm sorry.
It's not mommy dearest. It's before you leave during the day. It's the way I manage your expectations in our relationship, where I'm like,
Well, she used to drive me to the train.
I will be
She used to.
slow to respond or maybe unresponsive because I am back to back as well as presenting on camera most of the day. And you're like, okay, she's not like mad at me or ignoring me. She's
Well, this is what I'm talking about. This is before Zoom and really a lot of
it doesn't matter
video
if it's
conferencing
Zoom. Your
took
mom
place.
doesn't know what you're doing at work.
I know, but she used to drive me to the train each day, and we'd have our
That
time.
was a 5-minute train.
But still, she would get me to the train, like literally, like, right as the train's pulling in.
All right. That has nothing to do with her knowledge of your day.
No, I know. And then I would go home that evening.
Tip number 1, guys. When you are communicating with someone important for you, manage their expectations. That is really critical for good relationship management.
Exactly. So tell that person you can only speak with them for about 5 minutes a week.
That's
and that
right.
way, if it's more than 5 minutes, you've exceeded the expectations.
All right.
That's why I ignore a lot of your texts and phone calls.
Well, let's hop over to friends for a second,
Sure.
because you have been, in my observation.
Why me friends right now? Why don't we hop to like your relationship with your mom?
Me and my mom?
Yeah.
I already covered my mom.
Why did you cover your mom? You just said nothing. You basically were interrogating me and my relationship with my
I
mother.
made an observation that I die if I don't talk to my mom. It's very different from you.
You die?
I have nightmares.
Oh, okay.
I have like actual nightmares.
Kirti has nightmares when she's thinking about her mommy.
No, that's not what I said. I mean,
Or mama, as you call her.
when I don't have the time to call her and speak to her, and I'm also somebody who doesn't like to talk on the phone. It's like my thing. Like I don't like to talk on the phone unless there's a very specific purpose and reason to talk about something.
I see. Then why do you blow up my phone all day?
I do not even call you once.
Yeah, you do. You're like I feel like I've got like 20, 30 missed calls by the time I get home. It's
This is
crazy.
complete blasphemy.
It's not blasphemy.
More malarkey coming out of your mouth.
It's not malarkey. What are you talking about? It's not
100%.
malarkey by
What is your
any
deal?
means.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Anyway, my point is that I am really close to my mom. And when I was younger, I would probably talk to her almost every day for a couple minutes, like usually like on the train going to work or in some sort of like getting to somewhere and making sure I was talk to her. As I've gotten older,
Like, Mama, I'm in the blue sari today. The next day, Mama, I'm in the orange sari today.
exactly, I'm
Mama.
totally wearing 9-yard saris to work.
Exactly. Why not? You might as well.
But as I've gotten older and I've gotten busier in my life, we have kids and everything. It's just like my day is so packed with so much stuff that I admit I wish I called her more often and I don't get the chance to. And then when I want to, I'm just honestly too tired to even like form a sentence.
Yeah, and you have a man in your life, and you have to make sure you save energy for the man in your life.
You barely get my energy. I go like dead mode at some point in the evenings after work. So
It depends on the night.
here's
Depends on the time.
here's my shtick. If I don't speak to her on the phone, we text every day though. We blow up each other's phone in La Familia.
La Familia, but yes, that's texting. Like, so for instance, this La Familia chat, if you stepped away, so I have mine on silent because you can step away for 5 minutes and there's
offended.
and there's literally like 100 texts.
It's not 100. It's like
Okay, like
50,
105.
50,
Maybe, we'll split the difference, 75.
60. All right, maybe sometimes
Stickers,
sometimes 100.
videos,
Sometimes 100. Look, we're a
everything,
very
yeah.
busy family. We have lots going on between the three sisters.
I know. It's like I walked from the kitchen to the bedroom. In the bedroom, I put on a pair of socks. And then I decided after I put those socks on, I changed the color of those socks.
Well, at least we're not pulling the plug on our parents.
Well, maybe get to a certain age and you're supposed to.
Oh my God, Greg, I want to smack you.
Oh, that hurt. Why are you hitting me?
Because
you're
you
so violent.
There's no stunt double here or stunt coordinator for that one.
Jeez, I was. Don't make me go. What's the name of that movie again?
My hand is brittle right now from the cold.
Oh, from the cold weather. What's the name of that movie again? This Is Us. Don't make me go. This Is Us on you.
What? This is like not even funny. It's kind of like weird, that whole situation.
I know, it's kind of crazy.
But yeah, so like I do get subconscious guilt if I don't speak to my mom after a certain number of days and even just say hi.
It's subconscious.
Because I dream about it. And then that's when I wake up and I usually say to you, oh my God, I have to call mom. I do that a lot.
Yep. Is that because in the dream she's like torturing you, hanging you upside down, or doing something that's
No, she's like not
beating
talking
you?
to me, or she like ignores me and pretends I'm not her
Putting
child.
spells on you. Call me.
Like parent,
Kirti.
like actually, I think we're at an age like group and range now where managing relationship with our parents and our kids and our friends and work colleagues, it's a lot. Like
Yeah, it
we
is a
have
lot.
to manage a lot of different things. And I'm still going to go back to my like rule number 1 of manage communications expectations so that people aren't offended or hurt or want something else
I
that
agree.
you can't give them.
Yep.
Right.
Sure.
But like, I do think
So it's all about coming back to managing expectations. How do you manage expectations with someone who has expectations that can never be,
Fulfilled?
we'll just say, fulfilled in their eyes? Like, so for instance,
Well, then you have to question,
when you call
is
me
that a
30 times a
relationship worth
day
having?
and I say, babe, I can only chat twice a day while I'm in the office, but your expectation is
I do not
30.
call you 30 times a day.
How do I satisfy that
I do
expectation?
not call anyone 30 times a day.
Yeah, it's okay. You can admit it. Our fans love it. This is
Do not call you 30 times a
a
day.
sign of a woman who loves her man. Yes. But it's okay. I'm sorry that I'm disclosing this intimate information.
So full of bullshit. It's like ridiculous.
I don't know what you're talking
Anybody
about.
who actually works with me all day knows that I don't have time to do that.
Well, it's not just during the workday. It's like even when we're like, you'll be in the
When I'm
bedroom.
sitting next to you on the sofa?
Yeah, and you're like, you'll be in the bedroom and I'll be out here. You'd like call me like, hey, I miss you.
All right, moving on.
Okay.
Now,
So now we're moving on. So,
like-
tip number 1, manage expectations.
That's right.
Yes.
Number 2 is not going to even be uncovered yet because
Ooh.
this one is a little bit different for me. I think I want to kind of go from like managing our parent relationships, even like some of our sibling relationships,
Yeah.
but to like friends. Like you have done,
And relationships.
yeah, because you've done a great job of maintaining a lot of old friendships.
I try to.
And I lost a lot of friends actually when I got divorced. And
I did too.
it's like a
unfortunately.
it's like hard because I got married so young and made a lot of friends when I was so young. And then when you get divorced later in life, it's like people, I guess, for their own reasons, they have to make a choice.
And not maybe, and sometimes that choice is essentially been swayed by a politician.
Okay.
Call exes politicians going out and politicking and like trying to win friends over to their side.
Well, there's stuff
That
that
happens.
happens, but
That happens.
that's not the, like, my point is more like you've still maintained some of those old time friendships. But I also noticed you don't really talk to them a lot. So tell me a little bit about what has been like your secret power to maintain these friendships of people we don't even see and you don't even talk to.
That is very true. That's kind of interesting. And these friendships are people that if I called in need, they would be there in like a heartbeat. I just think they're old school friendships that date back to preschool, not even elementary school, but preschool essentially. And then others that I've grew up playing hockey with for 12 plus years. And you don't have to speak on a daily basis, but you just text every once in a while and it feels like no time has been left behind. You just really have a catch up and then you try to, schedule time to get together. But unfortunately, just due to logistics of living apart from each other, it makes it hard. And then put kids in the mix, it's kind of harder to coordinate schedules.
Yeah.
And so I feel like those are just deep rooted, kind of like family. If you look at my eldest sister, right? I have to say, how often do we really speak? Like on the phone?
Twice a year.
Twice a year, right?
Maybe 3 times.
Maybe 3. And I see her once a year, twice a year, maybe, if that. And so maybe it's just a deep rooted relationship that is like you get together and you catch up and like no time has gone by. And I feel like with some of my old school friendships are like that. And then some of the newer friendships I have, we communicate just more often, maybe because we're closer in distance or there's more relevant activity taking place. Like, so for instance, we could be chatting about music. So,
Yeah.
Friend, Deja will just say he plays music with us, right?
Yeah.
So we would communicate more often because there's kind of a music connection, there's other connections, there's work connections. And so I just think in that reason, we just tend to communicate more than I do with some of my old school friends.
Yeah. So I think I suffer from something different, like my deep rooted friendships, unfortunately, from like grammar school days, they don't exist.
Why is that?
Well, because I went to a private Catholic school that my dad He only put me in that school because he saved the life of the priest, the father that ran the school academically. And I went to that school as a Hindu, and unfortunately, I ended up not being treated the same as all the other kids. I was the one Indian kid in the school.
You're the token Indian?
I was the token brown kid. And growing up in Staten Island, as great as the pizza is, the people were not the easiest to grow up with. And I grew up with dealing with a lot of racism and discrimination, unfortunately, and don't really have any friends from that time period, sadly
That's
enough.
unfortunate. Yeah,
And then in third grade, a new father came in to run the school, and he said, "We can't have an Indian in the school scoring higher grades in religion class than the Catholics themselves."
Oh, interesting. So they had to kick you out?
And they asked me to leave the school, and my dad put me into public elementary school at that point. And I entered a group of kids that were together since they were 4.
Oh, so you were the outcast.
And I was the outcast.
Yes. You were outside of the circle of trust.
Yeah.
Is what you were. So let's put this in perspective. You had 3 opportunities to build friendships, and you unfortunately were unsuccessful each and every time.
Yeah. I mean,
that's something about your character.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
You're so messed up.
It's not, well, 3 times.
No,
Once,
I made friends.
know?
I made friends. My thing is they didn't.
First time's their fault. Second time's your fault.
No, they just didn't stay in touch.
I see.
There was
just
like
not where it's just
a lack
is it
of
the culture?
cultural connection. And then the Indian kids I did get to meet later in high school, they were cliquish and together with their own kind of cast of Indian people before I entered their group.
Oh, so then they had their own little cliques.
And I come from just frankly a smaller niche Indian segment that doesn't have a huge community here, and I just didn't belong
Maybe your parents should
anywhere.
have moved to Edison.
No, that's what I'm telling you. Even there, where are there in Maharashtrians there?
That's true. Yeah, probably not many.
So I just was not in an environment where back then, it's different now, but like back then that people were open-minded and willing to immerse in each other's cultures.
Well, I'm sorry that you had this experience growing up and you didn't have any friends. That must have been lonely. So did you have an imaginary friend?
No,
Did you have a whoopee?
no, I played the piano.
Oh, so the piano.
Music became my friend.
So now, of all the instruments you could play, would that be considered violence in like getting your frustrations out? Because technically, the piano is a percussive instrument.
I think it was.
It's hammers hitting strings.
But I played the clarinet and the flute also.
Yeah,
So
but
I had
that comes-
multiple outlets.
Those are different outlets. Those were like you trying to mature as a woman. I'm talking about you getting your.
Listen, I didn't go to. I did go to band camp, but to play an
you
instrument.
did go. Oh, really? You went to band camp. This time at band camp. Are you really a band geek?
I was in the marching band.
Oh, I was in the marching band too.
Why are you acting like you didn't do it?
Very, very briefly though, because then hockey was in the way, and then I also had my own bands. And
For me, it was briefly.
I didn't really want to be in marching bands.
I ended up more in theater, and actually moving from like moving my hobbies from things like that I think I was being forced into culturally, like soccer and things like that. And let's be real, Kirti's not an outdoor pet. I really am an indoor pet.
you look great outdoors though.
I mean, yeah, but let's not have me kick a ball
By the
around.
poolside on a beach.
But like, I will tell you that it was great to enter the world of theater because a lot more open-mindedness. And that's actually where I formed all my really good friendships. It was through
And this
theater.
way you could hide behind the persona of who you really were as an individual, a loathed individual that just doesn't want to be around people, and you could hide behind your own natural feelings in the characters that you played.
A second lesson in finding friendships is not try to force yourself to be a part of an environment of people that don't want you, but experiment and find communities and groups and environments that you find yourself naturally able to befriend the people.
So in a personal life, yes, I think that can work in a personal life because you should always
talking about
remove
personal friends.
Yeah, because you need to remove toxicity from the life, and maybe people, maybe you won't be friends with them now, but maybe in the future, who knows, you may reconnect. But then you could gravitate towards those that will, allow you to be part of their crew. But as some would say, that could potentially be social suicide. Especially if you're joining mathletes. And
I was in mathletes. It explains why I had a hard time.
Let's take a look at why she had no friends, people.
I was in the
But when you bring it to the professional world,
God, I was a geek.
You were maybe more than a geek, but yeah, geek, dork, nerd, all these different things come to mind that you probably were. Yeah. It happens.
Look, some people peak at 14 and some people are still trying to peak at 40 something.
That's true. That does happen. Yeah.
I'd rather be the latter.
Mm-hmm. Like Jacob's Peak,
Okay. Anyway.
Widow's Peak.
Yeah, right. Sure. So,
Yes.
but I'm talking about in your personal friendship where you have a choice and you can actually create your environment of happiness, and happiness should have people who organically want to be friends with you and love you, and you share some things together, and you don't have to be from the same background, culture, country. It could be things like, for me, it was theater that
That's what
opened
you
that.
gravitated towards and opened up to friends.
And look, you actually just mentioned a lot of the friends that you're still close with are musicians.
Or not.
Who?
My friend Bob, rocket scientist.
Okay, you first of all talk to him once a year if you do.
Yeah, but that's old school friends. And he's one of the people that we mentioned that you don't need to speak often, but every time we do speak, it's like no time has passed.
Sure, that's one friend.
Chris Baker, hockey.
Okay, again, you're a hockey player. Okay, so it's hockey or music. Give me another example then.
Well, Bob, he's rocket scientist.
Okay, that's a weird outlier. Come on.
I would say most of my friends are
Jocks.
no, not necessarily jocks, but just people that
Look at him, people. Look at him.
What? I'm good looking. I work out.
The jock
so-
ended up with the geek. That's what happened here.
That's what happens, except the geek matured and became beautiful. Actually, I wasn't a jock back in school. I was diverse, right? So I played music, I played sports. So I wasn't like a jock. I was kind of straddled all these different personality
He
traits.
was the player.
No, I wasn't a player. No, I wasn't a player. I was too busy. I was too busy. Actually, it was hard managing friendships and doing everything I was doing.
Yeah.
Because also I was an entrepreneur. So back in like high school, actually my friend Chris Baker and I, we started a car detailing business.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
So
you also sold Christmas trees,
I
right?
sell Christmas trees, worked at a hardware store, worked as a caterer. And then there were other jobs that I would do. I would worked in, I wasn't a carpenter, but I worked for my cousin who had a contracting business as well. So I would step in or just kind of help on whatever houses are being built. So,
Okay.
so between like that, put sports on top of it, and then a whole other layer of music, that I would spend quite a bit of time each day doing. There really wasn't much time left in the day. The day started early, just like now. The day started early at like 6 and then didn't end until probably like 12. Actually, there's times I didn't really start my homework until around 10 o'clock at night.
Really long night.
Yeah, it was long. And 12 would be sometimes early. Yeah, because actually we used to have hockey practices too late at night sometimes, which was challenging. But most of my schoolwork was done into the evenings. I would like start essays at 10, finish at like 4 a.m.
Why are we talking about your academic day?
Because you're asking about
Totally going off tangent.
I'm not going off tangent.
We're getting
I'm
you
giving people
ADHD
a
medication.
schedule and teaching you how to
We're
manage
gonna get you
relationships.
diagnosed ADHD, like major, like
ADHD, like awesome, directive, hot.
dad.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Thank you.
Going
You just
back,
completed it.
Going back to the last topic, which is relationships at work.
Yes.
You know, and how we kind of think about that and approach that. I have some experiences that have taught me a lot.
Relationships at work.
Well, we're a relationship at
I feel like
work.
we should have a segment like ba-doon-doon, Dun, 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 dun. Relationships that work. How you gonna make it happen?
It's like an 80s HR video.
Are you gonna twerk?
An 80s HR video for sure.
Get me all excited.
Oh.
Relationships.
Oh my God. Speaking of,
relationships that
one
work.
of our partners was on a call with us today at work, and he wasn't able to get on camera properly because there's something glitching at their company's Zoom or whatever.
A lot of people use that as an excuse.
No, but it was like a group of them, and we could see them frozen in one frame or whatever. And then he was just like, he made some funny joke like, yeah, I'm like, my twerking broke the camera. And we're like, I was like, why
His
is
booty like hit the camera and knocked it off.
How are we talking about twerking
In a work meeting.
at a Zoom meeting at
The
work?
camera itself was so disgusted, it decided to shut itself down.
But like, I do want to talk about work relationship because we spend more time in our day working than we do anything else. And you develop relationships at work. Some are kind of like you have to have the relationship because obviously to get the work done and have partnerships. But then there's like just beautiful organic relationships that blossom. And
I agree.
those relationships that we cultivate ultimately can really kind of guide the future of our career.
I guess they could guide or contribute, at least, potentially.
Your relationship from work, look where we ended up.
That is true. Yes, very true. That is very true. But I wasn't even thinking about it to that capacity. I was thinking about it
that's
like people that you
extreme
meet can also
capacity.
help to give advice and or, even other situations when someone leaves, they may hire you, or if you leave, you may hire them. And then also there's the other side of relationships, the challenging ones. As we said, to get work done, or if you need to be part of a group. But again, companies, corporations, and it doesn't even have to be a corporation. Any company, people at a company could be cliquey, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes
Of
as
course
an
they're
individual,
cliquey.
they're
I
cliquey.
see it all the time.
And then I feel like you have to become inauthentic. And so I think what's hard at work is work in this new era wants you to bring yourself to work, but you're not allowed to bring yourself to work. And what I mean by that is, yes, there's a certain decorum.
Controversial, Greg.
You need to have a certain decorum, yes, depending on where you work. But where I'm going with this is sometimes you have to be a chameleon and not be who you really are to basically play the part,
Really?
to get in with the right people, to be part of that clique.
I don't agree with you. I do not agree with you. I think I've always erred on being myself. And if I don't fit in with my authentic self, then maybe it's not the right company for me.
I'm not saying I've become a chameleon. I have run into those same issues, right? But the problem is if you do not find a way to connect, which may be disingenuous to who you are as a being, you may not be able to get work done. Or if you're part of a certain team.
I think you're going like very extreme in your perspective. I think that we are all very unique creatures and you're not going to always align in many ways.
I've seen people at organizations throughout my career just completely ostracize people.
I don't know where you've worked. That sounds terrible.
Well, it's a combination of financial services, entertainment, digital, music. And some of those places have been,
When you work for Fox, that's what happens, Greg.
this was actually, well, some of it was actually Fox was great. As much as I disagree with Fox and their news output and their perspective, I was a Fox employee for a period of time. I was part of an acquisition. But it was actually, I quite enjoyed my time at Fox. I thought the people at Fox were fantastic. I actually built some great relationships while there. And in fact, I think some of my relationships, unfortunately, were a little tarnished because I left and people were upset that I left. Because when I left, I gave X amount of time before I was leaving, extra time, just so we could, be able to start. I was trying to help source people for my role, but then they offered me other positions to stay. And I ultimately turned them down. I just didn't want to stay at Fox for the reason that I just mentioned. But some people were upset about it.
Well, what I just don't think you should stay somewhere if you feel like you really have to change who you are, because you're going to find yourself miserable in the long term. But
I agree.
when I think about relationships at work, I think because I've also in the last like several years, I've gotten the opportunity to work at different companies. And it's very hard to come in and try to immerse yourself into a culture of like maybe where people have been friends for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And I'm just curious, like what tips other people may have on integrating themselves into those type of cultures. But like for me, I think you have to have a proactiveness to get to know people.
I agree.
And whether it's like coffee chats or meeting for lunch or grabbing a martini after work, or you're going to an industry event, find a way for them to get invited and you're like going as colleagues to that industry event.
Yep.
There's like different ways you could do it, but you have to put in the time.
You have to understand the person.
And you have to get to know the different individuals. And I'm not a very cliquey person in general. It's just like not my shtick. I really have been offended by the clique environments in my youth, especially my Staten Island days. But I will say that I'm a little bit of a person who likes to kind of like be peppered across different cliques, maybe.
Peppered. Oh, interesting. Like a,
Well, it turns out I'm brown.
oh,
And you can
sprinkle you?
You can sprinkle me.
Sprinkle. Some cracked pepper. Let me put some Kirti here, some Kirti here. Just put it all over the place.
like-
You want to, we forgot one part relationship, a group that I still remain in contact with, my lifeguard friends. Lifeguarding, one of the best jobs you can ever have. That crew, I still stay in contact with.
That's right.
Yes.
He has lifeguard friends.
Lifeguard friends.
We don't know what else Greg has that he'll pull out in a WhatsApp chat, but we'll see.
That is true. You never know.
We
You
never
just
know.
never know. But talking now back to like the professional piece, I think what's hard is one, it takes two to tango, right? And so I think in a professional situation, I'm not saying you need to change, but there might be a level of adaptation that needs to take place, right? You need to understand the person. Is there like an ego you have to stroke? Or is there an insecurity or something of that nature? So you got to try to, if you're going to work together, you have to try to find a way to work together. And even in bands, I've been in bands where just the chemistry wasn't there, right?
Well,
And
bands
so-
are first to break up.
yeah, well, because it's hard. There's a lot of ego. And also, I think the difference between probably a band and I'm just going to go to corporate, a creative team in corporate. Creative team in corporate, people are there because they need to survive in life and they have to find a way to work with each other. It doesn't matter if you can't stand each other in a creative environment. Whereas a band, unless you're doing it professionally and making a nice salary from it, there's no reason that you're going to stay in that particular band. You're going to eventually break up. And if you're spending that much time together, even if you are making a ton of money, bands will start to break up because one, creative differences.
Yeah.
People arguing. There's typically one leader, maybe two leaders in a band telling sometimes everyone else what they want to play, and those people
Right.
don't want to play. And then also, if you're not the primary songwriter, you're not the one making the money. The primary songwriter is the one that's making the money. So they're buying the mansions, and you're like still trying to live in a cardboard box.
Well, I think you're raising something that's as simple as the notion of getting credit. Like, I think people, no matter what talent you are, whether you're a musician, you're a creative director, you're on the corporate side, I think some of that foam that froths to the top, that not necessarily always good foam, is an element of just human insecurity and wanting credit for what you do. and
Well,
bring to the firm.
there's credit and yeah, well, credit is one piece, but the thing is, it's also being blocked. Like your creative ideas being disallowed to be part of.
Or maybe those creative
the
ideas
songs.
just suck.
It's possible, but music things are subjective too, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so
Art is subjective.
yeah, and
But I think this element of being open-minded and compassionate, that people have different insecurities, is an important one just to keep in your mind, because then you'll figure out ways to express gratitude, which then helps to really formulate a deep-rooted relationship, right? One where you can then appreciate one another. And that's something that takes a lot of meaningful, earnest, authentic work when you're building relationships at work.
gratitude.
It always comes back
Word
to
of the day,
gratitude.
gratitude. So if you're going to bring gratitude into this, are you saying gratitude towards the organization by allowing you to have a lifestyle, or gratitude that the organization has brought together groups of people that then you need to learn how to function with?
I think it's having a sense of gratitude for every aspect of it. Like, to me, having a job opportunity at a company isn't like, oh yeah, you owe me that job or something. I feel very what's the word I want to use? I feel thankful that they saw potential in me and they brought me in, and they're investing in me in a way, knowing that at the end of the day, it's all about the company and its success, because that's what I should be there for.
Yeah.
But in order for me to achieve what they want me to and to be successful myself, I need to foster relationships at a company that I'm at. And in terms of that, I think you have to identify the special attributes and contributions of the different individuals that may help you achieve that success. And you do that through gratitude.
Okay. That's fine. You can have your opinion.
Oh, okay. You seem a little angry about this.
While you were monologuing, I just was thinking about something else and didn't even really listen to what you were saying, because it's weird. It's just like sometimes it's like,
You're the one who monologues the whole
"Oh,
time.
monologue. What are you
You
talking
never
about?
know how to shut up.
That's so untrue. You know what? You're the one full of malarkey.
We actually had comments on one of our episodes where it was kind of like, dude, can you just shut up and let the other person talk?
Yeah, that was not because of me. That was the guest that cut me off in the middle of a story.
I don't know about that.
when I almost died. And then person's like, let him finish his story instead of chiming in with your own boring story. That's what that was.
God,
that was a
Greg.
fan protecting me.
I don't know about that.
Me.
We may have to reassess
Yeah,
that.
we should replay that. We should go take a screenshot and add that, and people will see.
Well,
Yeah, well, what?
we need to probably wrap this up.
Well, no, we're not going to wrap it up quite yet. And the reason why we're not going to wrap it up quite
You're
yet,
starting to go off on a tangent
I'm not
again.
going off on a tangent. And the reason why we're not going to wrap this up is we are now going to give everyone tips. So let's hear. So tip number 1, if you have a partner, and that partner wants you to be home for dinner every night, but you can't get home for dinner every night, how do you solve that, Kirti?
You manage expectations and communicate those expectations.
And if you're out on a date with someone else, or if you're with, your friends getting drunk, or if you're doing something else and she's calling, or your partner is calling, texting, it's okay not to pick up during that moment in time and just say, I will get to you later.
Why are you always doing something inappropriate?
Inappropriate? What are you talking about? I don't do anything inappropriate. Okay. I'm just joking. So, so ask me. So what tip am I going to give today to everyone?
Well, in a scenario where it's about managing personal friendships.
Oh, I get the boring one.
and really not only curating them, but
Curating them. I like the way you pick one here, pick one there, pick one. This is like picking corn.
It's like
you
everything
put
is
it down.
art to me.
It's like peeling. It's like when you buy corn at a grocery store, you
I'm
peel
a
a little bit. Oh, this one's
creative.
good. This one's good.
Gregory, I'm a creative. Everything is an element of art.
I'm not quite. I wouldn't. Okay, we'll leave it there. So
Curating them, cultivating them.
cultivate. Oh, now you're growing them. Got to put in like an irrigation system, like shh, and they just grow. Is the next cooking them? If you're gonna cook, if you're gonna cook them, are we getting into cannibalism here? I'm so confused. Where you were going with us?
What's a tip? What do you do
To what? Manage friend relationships?
to curate and cultivate personal friendships?
I don't even know where to start. Well, first is you go out into the marketplace, you find people who you think you're gonna like.
Oh my God, you go to Tinder for friends?
Tinder for friends. Tinder for friends. And then you go, okay, you, and you. I'm going to befriend you all. We're going to get together. We're going to hang out.
You're so stupid.
And then so I've curated them. Now I'm cultivating them.
Greg, you're totally misappropriating this entire segment.
Well, I'm really not. It's the way that you're phrasing these questions. I'm answering them properly, like the vegetables that you're calling them.
You also remember you're with a geek. So I'm going to be a little bit weirdly geeky about asking it.
Geek. That didn't seem like geeky
Have
about it.
a little bit of awareness.
Geeky would have been like, okay, so now we are in the animal kingdom, and the genus name of the appropriate being, the spathiphyllum that you are trying to understand whether or not you should be friends with are not, may or may not.
I think we need a podcast coordinator.
May or may not get along with the peace lily.
Stop being Justin
Who's Justin?
Baldoni or whatever from This Is Us.
Oh, is that who that is? I have no idea who his name is. If that was the case, I have to start like treating you horribly and like saying like derogatory terms towards you and or doing other things that are just inappropriate. We'll save that for later.
So I will answer the question since Greg is incapable.
I'm not incapable. So, but the thing is, how do you curate like friends? Like you just kind of go, so the way that you curate friends, I think it's, I'm gonna back it up in the way that I would interpret this question.
Find friends, Greg.
You go to Tinder for friends. You go to your local marketplace. You go where you go to the bar and you find friends. You go to church, find friends. You go to like rallies, find friends.
Are you joining ICE right now? Like what is happening? Okay, no.
No. So the way to cultivate friend relationships, we'll just say in that capacity, is to have mutual respect and find commonality that you both like to talk about and or communicate. So like some of my friends, as we discussed, love music. And I had a friend that I haven't been able to hang out.
That play music and play hockey and swim with little tiny shorts on.
So a friend for my birthday recently,
I did for you.
Yes, you did. Who was given 2 tickets to a concert by his lovely wife, and he had an extra ticket, and he invited me. It was around my birthday, so it was a birthday gift for me, and we had a fantastic time together, and we caught up. It was lovely. It was a lovely time, and so I think it's a matter of any relationship takes effort, and so I think what it is, it's a matter of applying the effort. Effort's hard, and even business relationships, just keeping those contacts because you never know when you may want to have a conversation with someone, or maybe someone will help you network in your career or so on. It's just, to me, it's actually putting in the work and putting in the efforts. And even if you don't communicate all the time, it's a matter of, I'm not communicating all the time, but I'm going to reach out. I'm thinking about this person. Let me just quickly send a quick text. Say I saw something on TV and thought about you.
Yeah.
It's something as simple as that. That's what actually my friends and I do. That's our texts are, we saw something, thought of you. I'm texting to say hello. Hope you and your family are rocking.
Yeah.
I think that's what it really is.
I think that's all great advice for someone who was popular and had a lot of friends and were tiny trunks.
So then you
played hockey and is a sexy drummer.
So you do.
But in the case of people who, and especially a lot of people suffered during the pandemic, they're still recovering from post-pandemic environment where they didn't have the right kind of social environment to support them, nor the friends. I think there are things you can do to proactively ensure that you get kind of that element of friendship in your life. And I think that's truly through find out what you love doing, go and join some clubs, go join that like community, maybe a nonprofit, maybe it's like, but don't rely on social media because that's just digital stuff. Like you have to physically meet people, and that's how you build authentic friendships. And I learned this a very hard way when I was before digital existed and before a pandemic environment. I was just young. I was in a physical environment that didn't give me the opportunity to immerse myself with people who wanted to have me in their life, but I found a pathway even as a child and even as an adult. We could still find ways to create those meaningful relationships. And a lot of times it'll be with the things we like to do together, or maybe we're exploring something new together, like rock climbing. Who knows? I'll never do rock climbing, although I might be interested in it.
You never know. Well, you climbed the Sydney Bridge.
I did.
So.
And I also
and
did.
You,
I also
and you love heights.
Actually, I've done Yosemite and all the.
Okay, so you
mountains.
do So you do climb.
But I look like Lara. I was like Lara Tomb Raider then.
Oh, is that Lara Croft?
Yeah,
Lara
I was
Croft.
Like Lara Croft,
one of those.
Tomb Raider.
And you're like doing spins
I was
and
like strong,
martial
like
arts.
bull, but I'm like mom now. So.
Like,
I'm
what do you,
I'm like gonna go to Carnegie Hall, you know?
Yeah.
Like I like those
doing
vibes.
old people things?
It's not old, it's artistic.
But to get, as you were saying, like nerdy for a hot moment, you make a great point. Is so when you think of people, right? You can be an extrovert, you can be an introvert, or you can be like an ambivert, which is a combination of both, right? But scientists have proven through studies that extroversion, and not being an extroverted individual, but extroversion, actually communicating and socializing with people and connecting with people in a actual real format, is as vital as food, water, and shelter.
Yeah.
It's core to our survival.
It releases different hormones in our body
endorphins
and our
in the brain.
Yeah.
Oxytocin, all these sorts of things. As well as, take the pandemic, right? A lot of people became isolated. That's why there's a lot of mental illness coming out of the pandemic. It's because the lack of communication and
100%.
its impact on the brain and the
need
continual development.
Humans need humans. It really matters a lot. And that brings us to like the last element, which is professional relationships. And, what's funny is I think you think of me as an extrovert when it comes to like our friends and even with our family and stuff. But I am actually an extrovert.
An ambivert.
Yeah. And I am not a fan of crowds, surprisingly. I do not like big arenas with like a lot of people. It like really gives me quite a bit of anxiety. And work is one of those environments where I can walk into a cafeteria even now after 20 something years of working, and I'm like a bit like my gut is like a little bit like nervous and clenched that I have to walk in here and I don't know who I'm going to see, and I just want to pick up a yogurt and I just want to walk out and I want to go to my desk. But then I'll get on a Zoom with 30 people on it and be like totally like comfortable, like blah, blah, blah. Like you wouldn't know that I just 5 minutes ago was cringing at the idea of interaction.
Like vomiting in the bathroom and doing all these things.
No, I don't have those problems.
Okay.
I mean, there may be dysentery at some point.
Yeah, you never know. It could happen. Yeah.
But my point is like creating relationships, meaningful relationships at work is hard. And you do have to bring your authentic self. And of course, there's company culture that you have to like kind of also fit into. So I understood what you were
You
saying.
have to fit into a box. Like, so put it this way, like tattoos right now are in vogue, right? But if you think about it, 20 years ago, a portfolio manager could not be all tatted up on their arms, or a wholesaler or any professional, right? You just wouldn't get the job. But nowadays, it really kind of
if it's like peeking on your
peaking a little bit, it's a different scenario. So people would have to conform or put themselves in a box to conform to corporate society, depending on where they work.
And that comes down to, as a brand professional, there are some elements of, do you fit our brand? And that's where like companies, I think, need to also think about that a little bit more carefully as they bring new talent on.
Well, that's the thing is right there. All right, so that's a big piece, because one is, granted, you're working for an organization. Yes, you should fit into what their brand is. They're paying you a wage. But then conversely, that a brand may not find necessarily the best talent that way. And I think they've probably now, in this day and age, have understood that.
Look,
and are
there's a lot
exceptions.
of personalysis tests that people have to take, right? To like even be considered for a role.
And times are changing, and even just policies and everything's changing as the newer generations are coming up anyway, because they're looking at everything completely different than we even did.
Yep.
Right. So back in the day. And so,
but I do think, remember this notion of asking questions to get to know people, not only their professional capability, but even the appropriate personal questions, depending on the body language from the person and if you've spent enough time with them. And allow yourself that opportunity to like get to know their weakness and their like even their positive elements, and then it allows you to also be thankful for them. And when you start to connect with people and empathize as well as exhibit compassion, you can then ultimately be thankful for them. And gratitude goes a long way. And I think that's a huge thing about building relationships at work, and then also finding ways to do things and celebrate within your industry together. And you and I get to sit on like a nonprofit board together by chance. And then I'm a part of like things like CMO Council and these other groups like Financial Narrative, like all these groups. And it allows me to meet more people, but also get value and give value. And that's how you start to build relationships in the system.
And one thing we haven't really touched upon yet in terms of building a relationship, and it's one key word: listen.
Yeah.
So I think listening to people is really key because that's how you get to know them.
That's
and
the wrapper for all of it.
Yeah, that really is. And because unless you are listening to someone, you're not going to understand who they are, because it's more than just the words, right? There's body language involved. There's just an overarching persona. There's delivery. There's so many different aspects that go into understanding a relationship that we don't even think about. Just we absorb as humans from each other, just energy, right? But I would say listening is really key. And not to be one of those people, coming back to the party analogy, that swings into the party and just goes around to each person just talking about themselves and moves on to the next, talks about themselves, moves on to the next. Big part of it is asking your friends, how are they doing? And honesty. I'd say honesty. That's another thing, is that I would say with my closest friends is we're completely honest. It's not like, oh, everything's fine and dandy. It's like, how are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm having challenges here. I'm having challenges here. And like, friends try to help you solve those challenges. And I think that's really key. It's listening, asking the right questions, having an open, honest relationship. And it just makes it real. And it removes like the facade of what social is like traditionally. I don't want to say traditionally, but what social once was, where, people were all just glossy, perfect photos, produced. Life is dandy. I'm living the best life ever. But behind the scenes, everything is just burning down.
Yeah.
Whereas, when you have a true friend, you actually know when they're in pain, when they're happy, and you're there at each of those moments in time to help when they need. And even if you're not communicating on a regular basis, that when your friend calls you and says they need you, that you are there. That's friendship.
All right. Thanks for your monologue, Greg.
You're welcome. I was just listening to you.
I was the one doing the listening.
Well, you should be, because you learn a lot when you hear me speak.
All right. Well, that's a wrap.
And that is a wrap for this episode of God Spice. But if you all would like us to answer more questions about relationships, how you can further your relationships, life coaching, health coaching, and all these different items that are part of the everyday lifestyle of an individual, send them to us. We'll bring them on our show. We'll talk about them. We'll create shorts about them. So it's all about you.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Later.